Orange and blue today. 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. It is talking about the Denver Broncos. It is time to be talking about the Denver Broncos, and that means it's time for me, Cecil Lammey, him, Andrew Mason, you, the viewing and listening audience. Mace, we got to talk about your Draymond Jones piece because, and I want to be very clear, I think team sources are kind of getting pretty quiet, which I'm fine with. Walton Penner Group doesn't like leaks. But there seems to be positivity around the Draymond Jones situation in terms of getting a long-term contract done, something that you wrote about at denversports.com, and let you and I discuss it because the franchise tag window is open, but I'm of the mind, like, why tag him when the long-term deal makes the sense?
Yeah, and the thing is, there are two options I think that actually are good options for the Broncos of the four. And I spell out the four options at denversports.com. The two options that are good are obviously re-signing him, because then you keep somebody around who's proven to be a proficient interior pass rusher. Those are very hard to find.
Yes.
If you let Draymond Jones go with what little draft capital you have, plus the need to spend on other positions in free agency, if you let Draymond Jones walk, you are not replacing Draymond Jones this year. That I think that's a given. You will get weaker at a key spot. And oh, by the way, you'll get weaker at a spot that you need to be strong because your edge rusher complement is still young and developing. There's some promise there with guys, with a guy like Baron Browning in particular. And maybe you get Randy Gregory back to health. But with the questions on the edge, you got to have the interior right. So re-signing him is a good option. And the other good option is tag and trade. But I've received no indication, Cease, that tag and trade is on the docket. This sounds very much like either they get it done or they move on. And some may say, oh, well, you let him walk, you could get a third-round comp pick back. But here's the rub. If you sign a comparable free agent, you're not getting that third round comp pick
Right.
back. You're getting nothing. Effectively, it's bye-bye Draymond Jones. We got 4 years out of you and nothing for letting him walk. And I do believe if the Broncos let Draymond Jones walk, they would sign a free agent at the level that would cause them to forfeit that third round compensatory pick where it would cancel the picks would cancel each other out.
And Mace, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be 2024.
Right.
So, like, you'll get a comp pick later on when you already have all your picks. They need picks now. I don't think a tag and trade is an option. The positivity, we get a lot of agent fed information. You and I will always be honest about the time of year that we're in. You get a lot of agent fed information around the scouting combine because agents have clients and clients have needs. But I think it's interesting that the buzz that is out there isn't about tag and trade. It's not even about tag. It's about, yes, getting a long-term deal done and legitimate talk about that. So I feel pretty good. And I'm glad that the Broncos are recognizing that because, brother, they need sacks. They need pressure. They didn't have a whole lot of that, especially after Bradley Chubb was traded.
And yeah, sorry, I lost you there.
Yeah, I was echoing there for a second in your ear, but they need pressure and they need Draymond Jones. That's why I'm glad to hear it sounds like a long-term deal may be the top option.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why that's good. I mean, in addition to Draymond Jones, just keeping him around and keeping that skill set around, the other thing you can do if you get a long-term deal done is that this is where the finagling of the salary cap comes into play, because then you can structure a contract that has a fairly minimal cap hit this year. Let's say you're talking about a deal that comes in at around $16.5 million in terms of average annual value. Okay, so that would be that would be like, say, 5 years, $82.5 million. You could get that structured if you get enough in the guarantee. You could get that structured to where you're talking about a cap hit this year of 9 or 10 million rather than 19.727 million if you tagged him. By the way, that tag figure, Cease, is one reason why I believe tagging him even for a tag and trade, it's not on their radar right now, because if you tag him, even if you intend to trade him, that hits your cap right away. And so tagging Draymond Jones means effectively you're putting yourself out of the mix for a lot of top tier free agents. There are other moves that are going to be coming, but that's 19.727 million. Whereas if you can get something done long term and you can knock that cap figure for 2023 down to $9 or $10 million, then you've got extra money to go play with and target some other positions of need, such as offensive line.
Yes, offensive line in a big need. I know the Titans had a purge today, and I got some notes from people like Taylor Lewan, he's going to retire, most likely. Mace, Zach
Yes.
Cunningham, though. I've always liked Zach Cunningham. Always wanted the Broncos to get Zach Cunningham. Maybe it's different now as he's an older player, but okay, it's kind of that time of year where we're watching other teams make their decisions on their players, and it's interesting to go, well, how would that guy work with Denver?
Exactly. It would be very interesting to kind of think about that. It's funny, Cunningham seems to have come up every year, but here's the thing: right now, Zach Cunningham, maybe he doesn't make you better in the way that he would have before. Personally, I'd much rather bring Alex Singleton back than sign Zach Cunningham. That's the thing. I'd rather have Singleton than Cunningham.
What's the cost? I'm cost conscious, except for offensive line, because you're going to have to throw money at that position, even if it's maybe overpaying a little bit or paying for a name. McGlinchey would come up. People talk about 49ers fans will tell you he hasn't been the same. They're ready to move on from McGlinchey, but okay, that's a name. I would rather spend at that. And I think Singleton will be affordable. Cunningham Singleton to me is about the same, especially Cunningham today. I think Cunningham might be a little bit better in coverage, but not much. To me, it'll come down to price.
Yeah. Do you think Cunningham be cheaper than Alex Singleton? That's the question.
Probably not. Honestly, it depends.
Yeah.
Singleton won't cost you a whole lot, but he did play incredibly well last year, and he's kind of found a home next to Josie Jewell. So inside linebacker has always been something I blare the horn for, and this year a little quieter on that tune.
Well, I can't blame you for being quieter, though, because really that was a strength for much of the year. And even though I wish you had a bit better in coverage, and I think you go back over the last few years, the Broncos wish that Justin Strnad had developed better than he had, because they drafted Strnad to be that coverage linebacker to come in sub packages. But remember, he got hurt in training camp in 2020, the COVID year, and never really got back on track. And then when they put him out there in 2021, he couldn't defend the run, and he was just okay in coverage. Now, in other words, if you put him out there, you were kind of tipping your hand, and you put Justin Strnad out there, you're basically giving a team license to run the football.
Right.
So you can't have that. Look, there's a reason why those all-around off-ball linebackers, similar to interior pass rushers, they're hard to find. There aren't many players with that skill set.
Yeah, and the tight end is such a weapon today. The Strnad thing is weird because you're going to the combine next week, Mace. Sternad's numbers at the combine were among the worst in history at his position.
Yes.
So the pick for me was always weird. I was never down with the Justin Strnad pick. And listen, I'll be wrong about picks. I'll be right about picks. I'm going to talk about both of them. But the Strnad one is interesting to me because I was like, I get what you're trying to do. Like, he's like Isaiah Simmons. Like, no, because he's not explosive whatsoever, like at all. I think his broad jump was less than you'll see from offensive linemen. It was pretty bad.
Well, the thing to remember, though, about Strnad is that he was coming off an injury at Wake Forest. He missed the back half of his senior season. So his combine numbers I took with a grain of salt. He just simply wasn't healthy. But he was always somebody who was better in coverage. His path to success in the NFL relied on his range translating, and it just didn't. Just another example of how it's very hard to project sometimes from college to the NFL. He was a good coverage linebacker at Wake Forest. It just hasn't translated. And the other thing is he was so weak against the run. You go back to that Browns game,
Dearness Johnson.
The Ernest Johnson game. Yes. Dearness, and that was a game where Strnad was still playing, and then it was after that game that they made the trade for Kenny Young, I believe.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and they moved Baron Browning inside because they're like, we've got to do something here. Like, you didn't have Josie Jewell, you didn't have Alexander Johnson, you were stuck at that moment. But I mean, to Strnad's credit, he's a good special teamer. That's what kept him around and on the roster last year. But we're heading into a new world with Sean Payton, and I mean that someone like Strnad might be endangered. The problem is, I don't know that a good coverage linebacker is just going to drop into your lap. At least not one that doesn't sacrifice what you're doing in the box.
Right.
So it's just a troublesome thing. People will ask you and I, well, what could the Broncos do? How do they solve this? Sometimes the problem doesn't have a very easy solution. I think this is one of those cases where you just have to kind of accept what you have as the best solution that kind of solves most of it, but not all of it. And that's why I would bring Alex Singleton back. But, who's making the decisions on Alex Singleton? And that's the other thing in play. And that's, and everything's kind of, it's funny how there are certain things that are in a holding pattern right now.
Right.
Draymond Jones is not in a holding pattern because he translates to any scheme.
He's scheme versatile.
He's scheme is versatile. That you use the team scheme versatile. I use the term team scheme independent. In other words, you can plug him in any scheme. He's going to be a plus player. And I think one reason why you're seeing the negotiations going on is that Sean Payton realized that pretty quickly. When he studied the Broncos, he's like, we need a guy like Draymond Jones because we're not going to find a Draymond Jones.
No.
Again, it doesn't exist as my dogs. See, my two dogs wanted to be in the office with me while I did this show.
Right.
But I closed the door. Now the garage door is opening because my wife is home.
Okay. So now they're making some noise.
And now they're making some noise. And that's why you hear Ruby is the louder of the two of them. That's why you hear Ruby going kind of bonkers here. So hopefully someone will come and let him out, or I'll have to just get up and leave my desk for a moment here while we.
Do you ever sing Ruby, 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 so ho?
No, what I sing to her a made up song. It's a stupid little song that I sing. I sing, who's a gem, who's a jewel, little Ruby, that's who. And she licks my face. I sing to my dogs.
All right. All right. I feel like we're in a State Farm commercial, right? Like I talk to my plants like they're babies.
Yes.
Whoa. You don't need to get that personal.
Okay, so wait. You talk to your plants?
No. That's a commercial for State Farm.
I
At
thought
least
you
it's not
actually
the
did
smell the beard one. I even tweeted that one time because Twitter's the most important thing ever. I was like, State Farm. I'm sick of seeing the guy smell his beard. It's gross, man. It's gross.
Yeah.
Trim that damn thing. Are we past the like beard phase with guys? Like the big beard? Are we?
I was gonna say, phase? Like you're asking us here. We got facial hair on both sides of this screen.
Yeah. But it's not the ZZ Top beard like that. It got a little over the top there for a little bit. I'll tell everybody that. My fashion sense.
Yeah, I think we're probably past the just letting it go as long as possible. I think we're at the point where we're reaching where beards are just you trim them rather than cultivating them, right? I think that's the thing. If you went for like a long beard, that's something you cultivate. And you could make it look presentable. But like, for example, I've kind of scaled back to just the goatee here. I don't have anything on the sides again.
Okay.
Except just like some, 2 or 3 day old fuzz that I'll probably shave tonight, because I found like the maintenance of a beard was just when I did let it out, it was just like too long. Like, so I just end up, well, actually what I do is I'll put on a face mask, and actually the face masks I have, they give a good guideline for shaving down here. So that's another thing. I've gone full Kyle Orton neck beard at times, but not right now.
Not the neck beard. It's too irritating, man. It's too irritating. It gets in the way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just you're trying to make yourself reasonably presentable, right?
Yeah. That's what you try to do.
Yeah, Samuel Mace sings to his dogs, pushes in carts. What can I not do? But
Right.
I can't run a marathon. I mean, I can walk long distances, but I can't run a marathon.
Okay.
What else can't I do?
You've got calves of iron. How can you not run a marathon?
The problem is those calves of iron can only carry so much midsection of girth is the problem. It's like half of my body is is in great shape. Half of it's in terrible shape. I mean, I treat my legs like a temple. I treat my upper body like a tent. So
okay, there you go. We'd rather talk about dad bods and calves and beards than the defensive coordinator thing. We need to briefly address it, Mace. You and I both agreed. Like, I don't really want to talk about it till something happens,
right?
Because I think it's dumb to be like, they don't know what they're doing, or I think it's dumb to say mystery candidate, which is just PR. So I'm just like, okay, let's bring it up, because that's, even the chat room's like, well, how about the combine? What are you supposed to look for if you don't know who your DC is? Like, I get it. I think someone's hired this week.
Yeah. Look, the concern I do have at the combine. Hang on for a sec. I'll be right back. We're gonna let the pups out.
All right.
So you just carry it for about 30 seconds.
I got you. Ruby Soho. Yeah. To me, like, I'm not gonna fall into and I understand for a talk show purpose, like, why people do have those sorts of opinions. Like, it is something to react to. I think DMAC called me boring yesterday when we were exchanging pleasantries between shows, and he's like, what do you think of this DC thing? I was like, I don't give a blankety blank blank blank. And he's like, that's boring. I'm like, yeah. Well, but I just want to talk ball, man. I don't need to do the talk show host like faux controversy. The Broncos have no idea what they're doing. No, they're just waiting to hire the right guy.
Have you seen DMAC's latest tome?
I'm afraid to ask.
Off denversports.com right now.
Okay, all right.
Sean Payton's waiting game for defensive coordinator is confounding. That's the headline.
Ah, okay.
And he just asked, what is the holdup? I mean, okay. Here's the thing. Would it be nice to have your coaches in place by the combine next week? Yes, it would be, and it would be nice because you're going to meet with 60 players while you're there. Presumably about 30 are going to be on defense. So you'd like, and then you've got the, bumping into players off to the side in the corridors of the Indiana Convention Center, which we know happens over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
We see these with our own eyes, right? I mean, that's why I always have the notepad handy, because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I just saw this coach running into this player, it comes in handy. But look, if you don't have a coaching staff on the defensive side in place, this is what you've got your scouting staff for. And, okay, well, they don't know what they're looking for scheme-wise. No, well, then here's what they do. They're evaluating traits, and scouts who know what they're doing, and the Broncos have scouts who know what they're doing. Well, when you give them the scheme that they're going to be running, then they'll be able to tell you, okay, these guys are the best fit in terms of skill sets, and then also personality and character and other traits that we're looking for. And if you want your defensive coaches, your new defensive coaches, but they won't all be new, because you are looking at Christian Parker and Marcus Dixon likely being back. So it's not going to be a clean sweep, clean slate on the defensive side. So those coaches that you bring in and your coordinator, if you want to go meet with people, you put them on the plane and send them around to pro days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have your 30 visits that you can do in person. You can still get that in-person time you're looking for over the course of the process, even though you're not going to be at the combine. I would actually argue, like, the on-field part of it with the combine, we'll talk about it because sometimes there are some interesting things there. Like you mentioned Justin Stranad. I'll actually be on hand at a good chunk of the workouts next week, it looks like. So I'll be able to kind of give you some first-person view and insight into these things. But here's the thing. You could argue the least important part of the process is what they're doing in what John Fox would call the Underwear Olympics. Right?
Yes.
Okay. My concern is, they're not going to be there for the in-person interviews, but like I just spelled out to you, Cecil, you can make up for that, right? There's a way around that. So it's not to me the panic that it should be. And oh, by the way, they could have a coordinator by this time tomorrow, by Friday. I mean, really, the only people that are sort of losing out in this, if they don't get it done, is the media. If they don't have a press conference at Broncos headquarters before they make the hire, oh, fine, they can do the press conference at the combine. Who cares?
Yep, they can do the press conference at the combine. They got plenty of different options. I think in this point, us media types don't need to be selfish in this matter. Worst case scenario, from what I've heard, is a hire is on Monday. But I'm still expecting something to happen this week. So yes, it'll happen, everybody.
Before the combine.
Yes.
Because Monday's the day everybody's gathering, and Tuesday it gets underway. By the way, for all of you who pay attention to the combine, they are reversing it this year. Usually it was offense, then defense.
All right.
It's defense, then offense.
Yeah, got some changes up this year for the scouting combine. For anyone that subscribes to they don't know what they're doing, okay, I'll here's what I do usually with ridiculous people, Mace. I do this for fun, and only if I have time, and I barely have time to have this sort of fun. But if someone says something like really, really stupid, I just agree with them. Like, yeah, you're right. They have no idea what it's a disaster. Go root for Kansas City. Like, seriously, fast forward it. If you're one of those, like the Walton Penner group doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, you're right. They have no idea. Now, fast forward it. The Broncos will be the worst team in the NFL. Okay, why do you care? Like, seriously, let's be realistic. Let's be positive, and let's be patient. This isn't about us in the media and the timeline, and be damn the combine. The hire one before, the hire one during, the hire one after. Just get the right guy. That's all that matters. To me, the Draymond Jones thing, much more important. Finding offensive line talent, scouring over these now available free agents. Was it Sterling Shepard, top of my head? Not that they necessarily need a wide receiver, but like you're seeing players just flat out release now.
Yes.
So you can start the process of like, would this be good? I wrote about it today. It's not yet on our homepage, although we have tweeted it out, Mace, about the rumblings that I've heard about Kareem Hunt being available. Now his numbers fell off big time. Like his advanced data fell off and his yards per carry went to 3.8. It's never good under 4. But like Kareem Hunt is an option. Our friend Matt Lombardo, who is, talks to a lot of coaching types. He talked to an offense coordinator that said Saquon Barkley would be perfect for the Broncos. This stuff is way more interesting to me than the hot take garbage nonsense of like, they don't have a coordinator. Like they're going to get one. So I think we'll be fine.
Well, we know Kareem Hunt's going to be available because he's a UFA. So
yeah, and they're not going to bring him back.
They're not bringing him back. I mean, I'm not, when my concerns about Kareem Hunt, like you mentioned, declining production on a per carry basis. And also, there's that other thing that he had that led to him being released by Kansas City. That was caught on camera assaulting a woman
and kicking her when she was down.
Yeah. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, go find somebody else. Okay. There are others. If you want to swing big, Josh Jacobs is there. Like, and that's the one with Josh Jacobs. He's the one that we know that Sean Payton at least has put out a comment about. Right. And that being said, I don't want to see them spend big at running back. Okay.
No, me neither.
I really, really don't. And in my piece at denversports.com, I offer some options that are more budget friendly to put it kindly. I do mention Latavius Murray. If you're just looking for a bridge to get you through to when you hope Javonte Williams is back to some degree, then Latavius Murray is somebody that you think about. But, I'll give you a name. I mean, what about a guy like Deontay Foreman from Carolina who shredded you? A big back. He doesn't bring much as a pass catcher, but he's a big back. What about someone like Rashad Penny? The issue on him is he can't stay healthy.
Right.
But this is a guy who averages over 5.5 yards per carry for his career. And, if you want somebody who and this is personally, I liked him coming out. He hasn't quite panned out, but I'd give a look at David Montgomery if he passes through the first wave unsigned out of
Montgomery is a great all-purpose back. I think Khalil Herbert's better, and that's why Chicago's moving on. But Montgomery's always been able to do it, and I think he could thrive and post career best numbers with Sean Payton because he's a great receiver out of the backfield too. He's all 3 downs. Don't have to take him off the field.
I mean, if someone like David Montgomery might cost you 1/3 of what it cost you for Saquon Barkley, right?
Yes. Yep.
But he might give you like 95% of the production. And that's the equation you have to have here because you know what? You do have finite resources and you do have to do some stuff on the offensive line. I think you've got to find at least one starter in free agency on the O-line, maybe two.
Right.
Right here. To me, that's the priority, is upgrading the offensive line. That is job number one. And I'd rather spend there and go into the second tier on running backs if I'm going to get a running back rather than get that first tier running back. Josh Jacobs, hey, it's worth talking about him because Sean Payton has said something, but I don't think that's the play the Broncos should make or will make.
I like what Jose says here about David Montgomery reminding him of Pierre Thomas. It's a good
Ooh,
pull.
I like that. That's a
really good pull.
That's a great comp. I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
How much temptation will George Payton have to fight to get Alexander Madison? Now, there were times that Madison, when he was younger, I would like rub my eyes, and it's when Dalvin Cook didn't wear number 4, so it was easier. But like, there were times when Madison, you'd be like, wait, was that Cook or was that Madison? And Madison would look like Cook. Now, he hasn't always looked like that, and he's had some inconsistencies to his game, but that's another back where you go, okay, cheaper option like a David Montgomery, and Madison will probably be cheaper. Will George Payton have to fight that temptation? Because, of course, he was there when Madison was drafted.
Yeah, you know what? I would actually, if I were Sean Payton, put my arm around George Payton and say, George, you know what happened when the last time you brought in a Viking running back? The guy couldn't stay healthy. That's Mike Boone, who's a free agent. I don't anticipate Mike Boone's going to be back.
No.
Right. So there's a better chance of Chase Edmonds coming back because he is a cut candidate. That contract says he's got that you can cut him
$6 million, no guaranteed money.
No guarantee, no dead money. But that puts you in a position where you can say, "Hey, Chase, 1 year, $2 million guaranteed."
Mm-hmm.
Bird
Chase
in the hand versus two in the bush for Chase Edmonds, and then at the very least we'd say, okay, well, we got our third down back, right? That's pretty reasonable to me. And for all we're talking about, it wouldn't be the most ridiculous idea to say Chase Edmonds $2 million a year, Latavius Murray $2 million on a 1-year deal, draft a running back, Tajay Sharp, Tulane.
Tajay Sharp would be their Kamara. Edmonds has Kamara ability.
Sharp's a Kamara.
Sharp is a Kamara. My vote will be the guy that I couldn't stop talking about in Vegas, Tavion Thomas, but he's not what Sharp is as a receiver. Not at all. He fought the ball a little. I was disappointed. Like, he caught it really well in drills, and then they got to team portion. He was like fighting it and had a couple of drops. He got all pissed. I was like, I got pissed. I was like, dude, that's your knock. Everybody knows you're a power guy. Your knock is catching, and you're dropping passes in team drill. It doesn't matter what you do in one-on-one drills or whatever.
And you got to catch the ball, be proficient in Sean Payton's offense.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing. That is absolutely essential. And Sharp just looks natural at that. That's
Sharp is, and remember, Kamara was a 3rd rounder. People are like, you can't find talent. There's talent all over the place. You can find superstars. Sharp is a perfect fit for Sean Payton.
He is. And that was the thing. I was watching some of the clips from Mobile just a couple of days ago. I can't get out of my mind how perfect he is skill set wise for Sean Payton, and how you could bring him in. And you've basically got your insurance set up because you have Latavius and you have Chase Edmonds. If you've got them each on $2 million, you're insured, no problem. But Sharp could come in, and then it gives you the freedom to ease Javonte Williams back. And then when you do get Javonte Williams back, if you've been able to have the luxury of time in getting him back, it means you've got a better chance at getting him back to at least 90% of what he once was. And then you've got something that's actually pretty scary for opposing teams. And then it makes the equation very interesting because you have this quarterback who's going into this, contract with unbelievable cap numbers, but the strength of your team could be at running back position.
That's where it needs to be. Honestly.
It does. It really does. And it gives you a chance to succeed, but then you start wondering, okay, we're good, but could we be better if we just move on from Russ without the extra 37 million kicking in? It's another discussion for another day, but you can sort of see how things down the line are looking. And then if you do get Russ right with those running backs, then who knows what you can do. I mean, we're talking at that point, you're talking about something magic happening here in the Mile High City.
The magic happens every day, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. That's what we call, my friend, a segue. Radio
Beautiful.
Professional. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey. Choose to do what you want. Anyway, we appreciate everyone for watching. Thanks very much. See you all tomorrow. Until next time, be safe, be kind. Know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.